Hi, Rachel. I think you're muted.
Yeah, no, I am. I am the number one. We're going to start to stream in just a few minutes. So I'm going to put my mic and also my video on pause for a moment, but we'll be starting in just a few moments and we'll go through some logistics and housekeeping with those that are attending. And then we'll dive in to learn a little bit more about the Robotics Institute.
That's great. Fantastic.
Okay, hello and welcome. My name is Rachel Burson. I'm from the Robotics Institute, and I'm delighted to have my colleague Nihar joining me this morning so that we can share a little bit about the Robotics Institute, some of the research here, and an amazing experience for you to spend time with us. In summer 2022 will be in person at Carnegie Mellon. So we're so excited to welcome you here. There's just a wealth of labs and projects. It's a really exciting place to be. So we're super excited. Nihar, would you like to say hello?
Yeah, hey everyone. My name is Nihar Perry. I'm a first-year PhD student at the Robotics Institute, and I was a riss summer scholar in 2019. So it's already been 2 years. It really doesn't feel like it's been that long.
It really doesn't. It just goes
Yeah.
in just a few minutes, and it feels like it's a blur. So what we're going to hope to do today is tell you a little bit about the Robotics Institute, the Summer Scholar Program. I'm going to turn it over to Nihar to maybe share a little bit about his research and experience, and then we'll do a deep dive into some of the resources and guidance for you as well. There is a meeting link that each of you received to ask questions, and I see that there's already like 8 or 10 questions in there, so thank you for that. We'll dive in and take a look at those questions and answer some of those. But let's get started and hear a little bit about the Robotics Institute. One of the things that makes the Summer Scholar program really special is where it's located. It's the Robotics Institute at Carnegie Mellon University is a tremendous community. So a lot of world's first, but it's really the size and the impact of the research that is happening at Carnegie Mellon. So top ranked school in a number of areas, really strong within technology. So top rank in computer science, machine learning, and robotics. We're actually the world's first robotics academic department. And one of the largest robotics groups that's affiliated to a university in the world. So there are hundreds of active projects, there are 60 plus different labs, and there's a lot of information. And that's what's special about RIS is that we're not isolated, but we're immersed within this community. And what we help you to do is to hopefully navigate some of those opportunities to meet as many people as possible. We want you to come into the experience to learn, to grow, and to develop. And really to kind of look around. And one of the things that they're very diverse classes that come in, people are coming in from all over the world. Each year we have students from at least 10 different home countries. So this is a small village. We are a global program. There are supports for both international and US students. You do not have to be living in the US or studying in the US right now. Our students and scholars come from all over the world and come to be with us here in Pittsburgh. RIS has 3 parts to it, and we're going to do a deep dive after a little bit about those three parts. And what we're trying to do is really to help you build skills and knowledge. So you're going to do a deep dive with some research. You are going to learn about the research process. You are also, that's coupled with professional development. And Nihar, looking back at risk now, you can see why some of the programs and why some of the professional development was in place, because we want you to try things. We want you to maybe write your first paper. We want you to be part of a committee that's going to organize a journal. We want you to learn how to do peer reviews that are constructive. We want you to learn how to host other scholars. We want you to do all of these things together, because you're learning technical skills, but professional skills that are going to take you a really long way. And at the end of it, we hope that you've been really surrounded by a supportive community that's not just there for the summer, but continues to go on beyond that as well. RIS has three parts: this research, the professional development, and then the mentorship as well. And RIS, and when you think about it in a temporal way, it has three parts as well. There's an onboarding or community building that happens before June 1st. And then luckily this year, June 1st through August 5th, we'll be in person in Pittsburgh. And then post-program, that's where we refine some of the research results. That's where continuing collaboration happens. That's where there's some prepping for graduate school and some supports that happen there as well. So I'm delighted that you've joined us today. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment so that I can invite Nihar to talk a little bit about his experience as well. And I'm going to tune into some of those questions also. Nihar, if you'd like to share slides at any time, please do. And I'm going to take a look at some of the questions that are coming in. So please.
Absolutely. So first, I want to just motivate the question of why do we actually want to get involved with research? And I think it's really quite simple here. We're building the future. And you can look back to 2000 when we hosted the DARPA Grand Challenge. So this was like the first time that people were really getting serious about autonomous vehicles. And fun fact, CMU was one of the top contenders in that program. So 20 years later, we're seeing that this continued effort in research has turned into so many startups and autonomous vehicle companies. So when you're here in Pittsburgh, you'll have the opportunity to see so many self-driving cars just roaming the streets of Pittsburgh. So CMU is affiliated with Argo AI through the Argo AI Center, and that's where I do my research. But there are so many other companies like Waymo and Motional that are doing really cool stuff here. So next, let's talk about why RIS. So RIS gives you a great exposure to research. So a lot of people as an undergrad, and I know myself included, didn't really have a lot of exposure to research. So we wanted to make sure. So definitely, I wanted to make sure that before I took the plunge to do a PhD program, that I really was invested. So RIS was a great opportunity to test out the waters and make sure that research in grad school was the right fit for me. And what makes RIS special here is the people. So we have all-star faculty, we have all-star support from people like Rachel and like John, who I think you'll meet. And I think the cohort of people here, you have 40 of the the most curious, most intelligent people that are all interested in robotics. And RIS really does a great job of bringing everyone together. And that's something that you really can't get any other place. So I think that's what really makes RIS stand out from the other research experiences that I've had. So now I'll talk a little bit about my research. I've been working a lot in autonomous vehicle research through the Argo AI Center. And my research focus these days has been on improving safety. So how can we make sure that autonomous vehicles are safe? And I think this is probably one of the most important questions we still need to answer before we can really get autonomous vehicles on the road. So one of the projects which I looked at was thinking about how should autonomous vehicles deal with situations which it's unfamiliar with. So something that we haven't seen in a training set. So when we train these deep learning models, we want to make sure they don't catastrophically fail when they see something new. And then more recently, what I've been working on is the problem of end-to-end object forecasting. So currently, the autonomous vehicle stack is broken up into three parts. So we have object detection, tracking, and forecasting. And each of these three parts or kind of treated as independent problems. And although this is really nice from an engineering perspective, if we make a mistake in the detection part of the pipeline, things can go very wrong in forecasting, which is at the end of the pipeline. So the work I've been doing now is looking at how can we streamline this entire process and do this in one giant end-to-end fashion. So I think the types of research that I do is very focused on computer vision, but I think this is just a small sliver of the type of work that we do at the Robotics Institute.
So, oh, I lost you for a second there. Sorry. Wonderful, wonderful. So Nihar, thank you for sharing your research. And I think that you're continuing to engage with your mentors from the riss experience. And that's one of the things that makes riss, I think, different. The community makes it different than any other place in the world that you can be. And it's not uncommon for you to have that opportunity to continue to collaborate. That's what we want. If you found a really good match and you're loving, like in this case, the research that you're doing around autonomous vehicles, and you make a great point, which is Pittsburgh is the place to be for autonomous vehicles. I mean, it is so exciting, all that's going on here. And the research at the Robotics Institute will go from very basic research to super applied and full commercialization. And you can find your fit in there. And that's one of the important things, I think, to contextualize what you're going to be doing in robotics, is that you have a chance, and you can't avoid bumping it up against other things and finding out what other groups are doing and how that's positioning. So you've got so many autonomous vehicle groups that are here in Pittsburgh, both within the Institute and then fully commercialized as well. And you've got a lot of wraparound services to that as well. So including insurance startups that are looking at how do we insure autonomous vehicles. And so there are a lot of very interesting conversations that are happening at the Robotics Institute, also around the space of manufacturing. Obama launched the National Advanced Robotics Manufacturing Initiative from this department. And it's because of the researchers and the breadth and the depth that they have, from very basic, again, to full commercialization. So it's an exciting place to be. I'd like to help the folks that are joining us today take a little bit of a dive into, if I'm applying, and one of the questions we often get is just to say, well, how do I maybe make my application really stand out? How do I make it stand out? And so remember, you're looking at these three different areas. So when we have you coming in, we're looking at how are you going to contribute across the cohort? Are you going to be engaged? Do you bring some unique skills? Have you looked at the work that is already being done? And so the applications that are going to really rise to the top, that are going to receive our attention, are those that have really tailored, looked at, and have a specific interest within the Robotics Institute. There are going to be tons of applications. But when you look at the breadth and the backgrounds of the scholars that are going to be coming in, they're coming from all kinds of different preparations. Some, they've just completed their freshman year. Others, they're a junior and they have significant research behind them. So we're providing a number of supports to help you, no matter where you are in your learning stage. If you are from a university that has fewer research opportunities, let us know about that. Showcase some of the things that you've done. Now, when you go to the website, there are lots and lots of hints. And one of the questions we get is, if I apply early, is that better? In some ways it is, because we start to check things and we'll follow up if things are missing, and you have an opportunity to continue to edit that application. And we'll be following up this week with those that have already applied, to give them some extra tips and hints as well. So these are screenshots that are from the riss website. So when you go there, Number one, it's June 1st to August 5th. We will be live in Pittsburgh. So that is super exciting. When you go here, what I'd really like you to do is to take a look at these two specific boxes so that you have the essential information. You're going to apply by January 15th. It's better to apply earlier. We're checking in and we're looking at the applications. The dates are fixed. You need to be fully here in Pittsburgh for that timing. There are lots of questions. There is no tuition for riss. There's no tuition for riss, and there are scholarships both for U.S. and international students. You can be abroad and coming into the United States just to attend riss, and there's a process for that. You're going to need a resume, transcripts, recommendations, statement of purpose. If we transition over to the green box here, please, please, please look at the research showcase. So look at the work that Nihar has done. Look at and a great way to approach is start by looking at the posters, start by looking at the videos just for the last 3 years and see what kind of research. That will show you the range of research for undergraduates that can be scoped within the various labs. And why am I saying multiple years? Because sometimes a lab will participate every single year and you'll see that. And then other times it's a newer, excuse me, it's a newer experience for them. For example, with Nihar, that was the first year that Deva and Shu participated. So that was great, and they've participated every single summer since then. So that's been wonderful. Go to the research showcase. That's the most important hint you're going to have in terms of finding your match. When you identify your mentors and projects of interest, you can look to see what other interests that the mentors may have. Make sure you match your background. What are the skills and abilities that you bring? So when you're talking about in your statement of purpose, spend very little time, if any, on CMU is a great school, right? Instead, use that limited space that you have to really talk about your interests, why you're interested in a specific project, maybe some of the skills that you bring. And remember, we know that you're an undergraduate researcher. We know this may be your first research experience. So show us what you've done in the past and tell us about your passion and interest in the area. There's a lot of guidance that's online and you can find this, but resume 2 pages or less, not more than that. You really don't have to include anything from high school. It's really your undergraduate and above. For the statement of purpose, again, 2 pages or less, a 1-page statement that is really focused on several labs and the riss projects in there. And why I'm saying the riss projects is because there are some labs that will not be able to participate, and there are other labs that will, and we can see the range of riss-specific opportunities from the website. So take a look at that. You have a few new faculty members that are joining, and they won't have sample projects out there yet. But so talk about that, and you can even note and say, I know that this is the first year, or I see that you haven't participated recently, but here's some areas. Look at what else they're doing. When you find a mentor, Nihar, how did you find Deva and Shu? And like, how did you learn about them? I'm really interested to hear what your experience was.
Yeah, so it was a really, I guess, almost chance experience that I ran into Deva. So I was an undergraduate at the University of Maryland, and Deva actually came to give a talk. So I was like, okay, this is cool. I want to check out the type of work that he's doing. So, I sat through the talk, asked a few questions, and afterwards, I asked him, I said, so there's this program at CMU called riss, and I know maybe you haven't, participated in this in the past, but I'd really love to work on some of the things you talked about in this talk. So would we be able to, set up some sort of research through riss? And that's how it worked. So definitely reaching out, being proactive, and asking questions from people in the lab, for example. So if you want to get a good idea of what a professor is working on, a great way is to check out their Google Scholar page, to check out their recent publications. And a lot of times professors have like small blurbs about their research interests. And I know CMU does a really nice job of curating. So like you can go onto the ri.cmu.edu website, and you can go through the different faculty, and then they explicitly list out the types of things they're interested in working on. So doing a lot of searching was essential for me to kind of hone in on what exactly am I interested in, who do I want to work with, and how do I craft my application.
And it really is about crafting it. So it's this discovery process, and you're saying, hey, this looks really cool, and I'd like to explore this. And that's what we're here at Riss to do. There's a really large community, and what we hope to do is to be able to support your exploration across the Institute. And sometimes, like Nihar, you'll come in and you'll make that match, and it's awesome, right? And you're like, this is the work that I want to do for the next 5 years, right? I mean, and then other times you discover something else that you're really interested in. And those are all good outcomes. We also, post Riss, will introduce you to other departments and other universities as well. So this is about an exploration, and Riss is really a community that we ask you to always have your door open to future scholars. And we're really excited to have some of our first alums as faculty members across the US. And so it's great that now they're recruiting you as alumni to, to do research with or to do other things. And one of the big AI projects, just one of our Riss alums is a faculty member on that. So we're super excited about the network that's out there for you. And it's really, we hope, very supportive and engaging. Let's see what some of the questions are that come in. There's always a concern about international students and whether you can participate. Absolutely. You can, absolutely, you can participate. You are not going to be proposing your own project. The projects are developed in multiple ways. It depends on the lab. So there's 20 plus labs that are participating. When you are engaging, what happens is you apply to Riss, we go through this admissions process, and then certain students are invited for interviews and for exploration. During that exploration, when you come and you're talking to various labs, it's a good idea to have an idea of the range of projects that they've already done, and then they look to see what are your interest areas, what is your preparation to that. There's questions about can you apply for Riss if you do not have a US visa? Absolutely. So we will have students joining us from all over the world. It's a J1 intern. It's a specific visa issued by the US government, and it has relationships with countries all over the world. The application requirements are the same for everyone that applies. Let's see. Is it possible to continue to collaborate? I'll just, maybe frame it in that way. I think so. Nihar, yeah, it is. So there's a lot of collaboration that happens. In fact, I think it's somewhere, it depends on the summer, somewhere between 50 and 80% of the students actually continue to collaborate. And that is intentional. And we help to help you to have conversations about that. We reach out directly to the faculty members, encourage them to do that. There are additional supports that are in the background as well that we're trying to make the process of mentorship and engagement really supportive for everyone. And so we try to help with that. So, so where to put the labs of interest? There's 2 places in your application. So you can choose the faculty members that you are going to be interested in working with, and you must choose at least one. You can choose like 3 or 4. In your statement of purpose is an excellent place because you're going to list not just the labs, but also the projects of interest as well, right? So there's some good information online about the types of projects, about, typical backgrounds and such. One of the things I think is not typical, and Nihar, and I'm interested in your sense of this as well. There's really a broad range of preparation and backgrounds. There's really a broad range. Not everyone. I think the thing that is similar or shared across is that everyone's super excited. And I love what you said. They're curious, they're bright, they're really enthusiastic about robotics, but their approach, their background, everything can be very different. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, at least for speaking for myself, I came in with a little bit of research experience. But really, I think going through Riss, that taught me that the way to approach research was completely different than the way in which I had learned it before. So there's definitely a huge aspect of learning to this. And coming from various backgrounds, like even if you have no research experience, formal research experience, but it's not necessary to publish a paper, I think, to be a top contender in the risk application. So I think that a lot of the people in my cohort, at least, had little to no experience, and I think the risk experience was still extremely valuable and enriching. So I don't think that should really be a concern here.
And there's as we look back in the various summers, there's saying like some of those workshops are very intentional, and you're right, people are coming in with a range of experiences, and one of the things that we try to then lean into is those that maybe have prior research experience, or each year we have returning alumni. And so there's different levels of leadership. So maybe you're part of the cohort one year, and the second year, if you're coming back and doing additional research with RI or within risk, is that maybe you have a leadership role within the journal. And at the end of July, it gets really tough because you're getting ready to put a poster together, you're getting ready to draft a paper, and there's tutors, there's all of these supports, but there's a lot of questions. If the data that I have, is this significant? Can I go forward with a paper? And that's one of the places in which the range of maybe experience within that peer community is so valuable yet again, because each year we have some folks that are like, this is not going to be a paper, but it is, right? And this is part of the learning experience. And Neha, you're exactly right. It is a learning experience. So it's learning to do research, it's learning about research, and it's learning about a series of professional skills to help you go forward. And then a lot of coaching and supports around networking and other things there, and just building those. We want you to maybe we don't always have to fall down, but sometimes we do, like the first time you go through it, but we're walking with you, right? We're walking with you. And so even some of the things like doing introductions and hosting people and other things, it may have been the first time that someone did that. And so we do it together, and we kind of learn and grow there. I'm going to see if there's any last questions that might be that folks might have, and we'd be happy to answer some of those questions. And riss is informal. You'll see I have a friend that has joined me this entire time here. So so there's some questions that are coming in from two different places. Okay. So if you want to apply to the Summer Scholars Program, you really want to align your interest to specific projects. Start with, a project and a lab mentor. Like those are the three things together. You've got to align to that to see where that fit is. And there's not a problem if you've not had the full research experience and you've gone through that life cycle. Most undergraduates haven't. They may feel like you like, don't you feel differently about research now, being a PhD student, and what you thought you knew and what you know now? There's just, it's a growth process, right? And so this is just about deepening your opportunities, and it's really exciting to have those, the community with you. So community supported, open to students from around the world, no problem. If you're not in the US, it'll be a mixture of students from the US and elsewhere. Some of those international students will be already in the US going to school, others will be abroad. And there are staff members and offices that will help walk through that. And we'll be, just as a wrap up, we'll be in person in Pittsburgh. And I'm delighted to have the opportunity to work with the 2022 cohort in Pittsburgh. There's a lot of great things to see and do here. And I want to help thank Nihar for his time this morning. And what if I'm a student and I'm thinking about, should I apply? Should I not apply? Like, what is your final advice to me in going forward, and how to really, that's the top question, how do I make my application stand out? What's your final guidance for those joining us today?
Absolutely. So first, if you're on the fence about applying, absolutely apply. There's no way you can get into risk if you don't submit your application. All right, so that's the first thing. Second thing is make sure that you tailor your application to talk about what you have done and how that connects to what you want to do in the future. And also for your letters of recommendation, I would suggest that you talk to professors who can talk about you in more of a way of doing research, right? So how can this professor talk about your research ability, not necessarily through formal research, but what qualities can they talk about that show that you are a superstar researcher in the making? So I think considering these three things, your application will definitely be very strong and very competitive.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Nihar. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today. This was really fun to have this possibility to